This is Brad A.Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where business owners share their wisdom. It's short and to the point because we respect people's time and because we know transforming possibility happens fast. It leads to lasting results. So let's get to it. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
So, Brad, I'm so happy to be here. My name's Laura Rotter, and I'm the founder and owner of a financial life planning firm, True Abundance Advisors. And I work primarily with midlife professionals who are going through a career change or some other big transition because that's what I did. I woke up one day after working on Wall Street and realized I was using my life to make money. And I decided to use money to make my life. And so I help others do the same.
Love that statement. How great is that? Love that. Very clear. What a fascinating field. So what's the best thing about being in business?
I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts. Freedom comes up a lot. I feel like, and I've thought about this a lot, it's the freedom to be creative. A couple of months ago, I had a bunch of interviews about joining an existing firm. There aren't that many women in this field. And so the women that are in it are often recruited. And I thought long and hard, and I said, I don't want to be, in that gallery of photos with my black jacket and my white button-down shirt, and someone else is doing my marketing and someone else is coming up with how I conduct my meetings. I have the creativity to build my business in my image. And I love that I think about how I want to market myself, how I want to structure the work that I do with people, and that is freedom. So I love it.
Such a great perspective. I had that. Since I've been doing this, I've only had one other person capture that creativity along with the freedom. And it's really all about that, having the ability to be able to do that. It's a great perspective. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Question number 3. We hear from other business owners, even during this time, because I like to say that right now, especially in the digital space. Yes, people are pivoting, but we hear from business owners that are getting so much business that sometimes the chaos is causing some overwhelm. Can you tell me your thoughts on that?
Sure. So I have never been a systems person. And when I've been an employee of other firms that were putting systems in place, I really railed against that. I didn't want to do it. And it is so important to have systems in place. So though I'm a solopreneur with a virtual assistant, I have mapped out the steps for like onboarding a new client or working with a prospect. I have templates in place so I don't have to recreate an email at each moment. And I see you cheering. It's an ongoing process to keep updating it. But I don't want to have to think, oh, yeah, what's the next step every time someone comes through the door? And so I've come to realize how important it is to put systems in place, especially in a business that's growing. So though I sort of chafe against it, I'm doing it and recognizing that it's needed.
We got you warmed up a little bit this stage. I love it. There's so many entrepreneurs out there recreating the wheel every step of the way, every time. And so I love what you just shared. Just like it warms my heart, and it's like music to my ears because we don't have to work like that. So I love it. Thank you.
I mean, it does take work to put them in place, and that's sometimes hard. You do have to take the time to think about the steps, but it's so worthwhile.
Love it. I love hearing that. Thank you for sharing. Question number 4. What other successful business owners like yourself, of course, should be on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast?
Thank you for this question. I anticipated it. So I reached out to some people. I belong to something called the Recognized Expert course. And there's so many interesting people that are building their businesses and building their platforms to be heard of. So Marcia Mueller, I don't know how you pronounce her last name, Mueller. She's a coach that focuses on growing talent, focuses specifically on women. I think she'd be a great guest. Ludmila Paslova, and Gina Cox. They both focus on diversity and inclusion, which is so needed nowadays
Nice.
in businesses. Christina Guthier, and she focuses on preventing burnout, which is a subject near and dear to my heart.
Mm.
And I don't want to forget to mention my own coach, Robin Wall. She calls herself a cosmic wisdom coach. And I
Nice.
have to tell you, I've used coaches in my own industry, and Robin has changed my business and my life. So I highly recommend her, and I think she'd be a great podcast guest. So thank
Love that. I absolutely love that. There's some really cool, interesting people. So looking forward to connect. That's fantastic. So let's get to some wisdom. Let's get to some value, as is said all over the internet. What what would you share with other business owners?
I don't know that this is a traditional response, but it's wisdom that's so important to me, which is don't let your ambition get in the way of you being present to what's
Mm,
happening right now. And the corollary to that, which is enjoy the journey rather than believing there's this particular destination you're trying to reach, so that you're always dissatisfied with where you are. You haven't made enough phone calls, you haven't booked enough clients, and if that's always your focus, you're going to lose your passion and your enthusiasm. The journey has to be what you're enjoying and what you're living for. And you do have to put practices in place in order to be present and appreciate. And anticipating your question, Brad, I thought about what practices I have, and they may sound woo woo and touchy feely, but I think a gratitude practice, getting up and appreciating the clients you do have, the work you are doing, the revenue you are bringing in, and making time for yourself. And that could be making sure you're exercising, going for a walk, building time to think, because we all spend so much time in our businesses, right? Preparing for the next meeting, etc., and making sure that you have time to think and work on your business. So that's where I am this year in particular. I've chosen the word ease, which I think I've chosen for the last how many years, and it's still a work in progress. But I wish for other entrepreneurs that they gift themselves the ability to be present to all the good that's in their lives as they continue to work towards the future.
love it. Most of us entrepreneurs make a shift, like there's a catalyst to this thing, right? Not everyone, but a lot. And so gratitude was a very big piece of that. I don't know that I ever paused in my life prior to that to stop and pause and just reflect in the moment and decide what I was grateful for. I may remember creating a gratitude list, which I review daily today, and it's grown. But I had like one thing on my list. I'm like, what does that mean? What am I supposed to list here? Of course, my family, right? My son, things like that. Those are obvious. But it's fascinating to me how the list grows. And I think that is a great piece of advice that not everybody follows. Honestly, I've talked to people who are like, yeah, I hear that all the time, or I see that on the internet. I'm like, well, have you done it? They're
Right.
like, well, no, it just seems like you said woo woo, or it seems like unimportant. So I love that you highlighted that. That is such an important thing. And I think sometimes it's easy to overlook. So thank you for that. The other thing is, and I imagine you have some some steps or some like advice that you maybe could share on the gratitude side of things. The other thing is building time in to think. I love that you highlighted that as well. I mean, all of what you shared, but that's something that is really important that I think a lot of business owners overlook as they get overwhelmed. Or I know me, like I go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. If I didn't build in thinking time, I literally build in strategic time and thinking time into my schedule. And my friends make fun of me. And if you're listening, I know you likely are, I build joy into my schedule. And I've had people laugh at me. And I was like, how am I going to experience joy today? I'll put a little block of something in there because I like to work a lot. I love what I do. And so I do work a lot, but I take some chunks and just build a moment to experience some joy, whether it's a dance party or whatever I feel like doing. Those are really, really important things. So I love that you shared those kinds of things.
Brad, and I just want to thank you. I love that word joy. I love
It's so important. Like if we want freedom and we want to run a business and that's the reason why we want it, then we ought. I don't like saying people should or they need to, but we ought to experience some joy and
it.
along the way. So great message. What are some if you're willing, I want to take that down a notch because this is so powerful. Like can we get just one step more granular? Like what kind of advice would you give someone who is maybe has never really done the work with gratitude? Is there any kind of advice or any thoughts that you would share there? Abundance is a key thing of what you do, right? This is very, very important. So there's people watching and people listening who are like, yeah, I want to be more abundant. Is there anything that you could share that would be really helpful for someone who wants to step more into their abundance? That'd be great.
Um, the first answer that comes to mind, my journey started with discovering mindfulness practices because
Nice.
I was, a partner in a hedge fund on Wall Street. I was pushing everything I did. And discovering the ability to sit, I try to meditate every morning for 20 minutes. Really changed my life over time. And I think that was my first step. And it's not always easy to sit quietly. So apps like Headspace or others that even for 5 minutes that you can slow down and pay attention to become a witness of what's going on for you. It's not to reach bliss, it's to get to know yourself,
Nice.
and to know that it always changes and it always passes. So you're not going to get stuck in the feeling.
I love that. Mindfulness is so important. So excellent. Thank you. I love this message. This speaks to my heart. Be present in the moment, active listening. There's so many things that just tie right into this. Mindfulness is so powerful. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Let's switch gears. So usually I switch from like some really hot, heavy business topic. This has been fantastic. I love this stuff. I thrive on this. This brings me joy. So thank you. But let's switch gears. I'm dying to know, what's the most fun vacation you ever had?
So I wasn't sure which to choose. I didn't mention to you at one point that I had been to Bali. That goes to my whole spiritual side. But we did this wonderful. There's an organization called Backroads. They're active trips, bike trips pre-COVID. Took the family on a backroads trip to Tuscany in Italy, and I just have memories of the sunshine and the food and the wine. And, you'd work hard biking somewhere and then you'd sit by the pool and have a beer. And it was a great bonding vacation for us with our kids. And it was just wonderful. I think about it often, and important that if you have kids to be with an organization that'll let you have some adult time while also spending time with the family. So looking forward to getting back to Italy soon.
It sounds like a blast. I actually have a couple friends in Italy and I've had friends here in the States from Italy. And I spent a year and a half in Sicily and was in Naples and a couple different places, but I love Italy. And now you're making me want to go back.
Yes.
So fun, but being there with family, wow, that is amazing. That's like the best of all worlds.
Yes, and being active. I'm an active person, sort of. So being able to sort of work hard biking and then play hard was just in such a beautiful, location. Highly recommend it.
Love it. I'm already planning my trip. Bali too. I want to hear all about that. So the next time on the podcast, we're going to talk about Bali. Fair enough?
Exactly. Yes.
Love it. Laura, thanks for being on. When somebody watches this or listens to this and they're like, wow, I have to get in touch with Laura, what is the best way for them to reach out and get in touch with? Is it a website, just social media? What's the best way?
Sure. I have a website. It's True Abundance Advisors, advisors with an O.com. And on that website, for people in a big life transition, I have a workbook that's available to download. It's called Live Your Life on Purpose Workbook, with a number of questions to think about as you go through a big life change.
Nice. Grab the workbook.
Yes.
Not later. Now. Go grab it now. So tell me your website one more time.
True Abundance Advisors with an O, all one word.com.
Love it. I love it. So go now. I don't know what you're still doing here. Go now. Thanks for being on. I appreciate you. This is Brad A.Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom podcast, where business owners making 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's really not all about the money. It's more about sharing their wisdom and serving people globally. Thanks for joining us.